Hi, this is Karen with Karen's Cards and More, and today I'm going to show you a card using a technique that's been around for a long time. Maybe you've done it before and forgotten about it. Maybe it's a new technique to you, but we're going to learn a technique. I'm also featuring a new set from the new catalog called Cup of Tea. You can get the stamp set and the coordinating die set. Let me see what it's called. It is called Teacup Dies, and it's a really cool set. You can get it as a suite, which has some designer series paper and the stamp set and the die set, or you can buy this as a bundle and save yourself 10%. If you like any of the products you see, be sure to check out my blog, karenscardsandmore.com. You can order from there. You can get the card recipe from there. If you want to join my team and be a demonstrator or even a hobby demonstrator, you just want to buy at a discount, you can do all that there. I have a rewards program for people that order from me. So all of that information is on my blog and you can check that out. So let's talk about the card and let's talk about what this technique is. Most of the card is pretty simple because I wanted to feature this technique. And this is called Wax Paper Resist. Wax Paper Resist. For this, you're going to need your iron, and I have a special iron that I use just for crafting, and I don't put water in it because you do not want to use steam. You want to use a high setting like cotton, linen, but no steam for this technique. So let's talk about the components of the card. So I have a piece of, this is one of the new in colors. This is Tahitian Tide, and this is 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. And then I have a piece of basic white that is 3 by 4 1/4. And then we're going to use some scraps of the designer series paper and the sweet sorbet to do our die cutting. We're going to do some stamping using sweet sorbet, parakeet party, and Tahitian Tide is going to be these little flowers, and we're going to use this sweet sorbet to do our technique that we're going to do. So let's start with the technique. I'm going to be using 2 pieces of the shimmer white paper. You could use a glossy paper. It works better with one of those 2 than it does if you try to use just the basic white. It won't work as well, it won't show up as well with the basic white. So I'm using the shimmer white paper. You could use the glossy paper as well. And you're going to need a piece of wax paper that is bigger than your piece of shimmer white cardstock. And this is 5 1/4 by 4. And it's just as easy. There's no extra effort to do 2 as there is 1. So you might as well do 2 of these at the same time, and then you could use 1 for a later card. So I'm going to be creating 2 at a time. So let's go ahead and start with this technique. So the first thing you're going to do is you're just going to crumple up. This takes no talent. You're just going to crumple it up in a ball and then just unwind it. And I've already got my iron on high heating up. So you definitely want to have that done ahead of time. And then I'm just going to open it. And what I like to do, you could just use it like this for the technique, but I like to crumple it again just to get plenty of different kinds of texture. So I'm just going to crumple it in a little ball again. And then I'm just going to unfold it. And you got all these wrinkles, and that's what you want. Okay? And I have just a piece of scrap. I'm using, I have grid paper that I use for stamping on. That's what I'm using. You could use copy paper. You could use foil. You could use, whatever you have available. And I'm going to get out, I have this mat that I use. This goes with my Cricut press, Easy Press. So I'm going to use that to iron on to protect my surface. So what you want to do is you want to take your shimmer white paper. Now this is on the inside. I'm going to fold this over, but I want to put one piece of my shimmer white. Then I want to put my crumpled wax paper. And then I want to put my other piece of shimmer white on top, just like that. And I want to make sure that my cardstock is covered with the wax paper. And then I'm just going to close this. And then I'm just going to come in with my iron and I'm just going to set it on there and just leave it for a few seconds. I find that I get a better impression if I do not go back and forth. If I just stay in one spot and then lift and move, I get a much better effect than if I try, you know, like you're ironing something. So I'm just going to do this just for a few seconds. It doesn't take a whole long time, especially if your iron's good and hot. Okay, that should be good. And I'm just going to move this out of the way. I'm going to take these out from under here and move this out of the way. And so this is the one we're going to work on. I'm going to bring my scrap paper in, and I know that you cannot see anything on this. Right now it doesn't show up as being anything, but we're going to fix that. So I'm going to be using a blending brush, and I want to start with the Sweet Sorbet. And I'm just going to get some ink on here. And I always like to start off of the cardstock, and I'm just going in a circular motion, and I'm just putting some ink on. And can you see what's starting to happen from that wax paper? And both sides will look like this. So you have two really cool pieces that you can use for your background on your card. Now you can apply this as dark or as light as you want. You could do a shaded thing where you leave the middle white. We're going to be covering the middle, so you could even not do the middle because we're going to have a white piece that's covering it. I'm just going to go ahead and do the whole card, the whole piece. And I'm just going to keep layering the color on. I love this, just from wax paper, who knew? And this is a really old technique, but it may be new to you. You may just be getting into card making, or this may be something that you've just never seen before. So definitely worth putting in your toolbox of techniques and tricks to try. I want to get just a little more color. There's parts of it that look a little light to me. Okay, I think that's good enough. And what I want to do next is I'm just taking a paper towel and I just want to rub over that, because where that wax is, you could have some excess ink that's just sitting on top, and you want to rub that off. You can see there's some coming off where the wax paper is resisting the ink. So you just want to go over that and rub it and get that excess ink off. And there we have our background. Isn't that cool? It's kind of like, oh, it almost looks like a leopard print. But every one that you do is going to be different. And I see now that I've got this area down here, I want a little more ink. So I'm just going to add more ink and then just wipe it off like that. Okay? So we've got the background for our card done. Now let's go ahead and work on our focal point, and I'm just going to turn this over just to make sure I don't get any of that ink on here. There's a couple die cuts that we need to do, so I'm going to bring in my mini stamp cut and emboss. And with this stamp set, with the die set, there are a couple dies that we're going to be using. First, we're going to be using this teacup die. And I'm using this blue polka dot. This is the designer series paper that comes in this collection. So I'm just going to put this on here. And we're just going to cut this out. We only have a couple die cuts that we need to do. So I'm just going to run this through. Just like that. So we have our teacup. And then out of a piece of the sweet sorbet cardstock, there's this piece that looks kind of a weird looking shape. This cuts out flowers. So I'm just going to bring this in, and I'm just going to cut that out of sweet sorbet cardstock. And that's going to give us our flowers that we're going to use on the front. Move this so make sure it's in the camera. I love this mini cut and emboss machine. I didn't know if it was going to be worth getting, and I've got it almost off the edge of the paper, so I just want to make sure to get it back on there. I wasn't sure how much I would use it, but especially for these smaller dies, when you're doing videos, it's just absolutely wonderful. If you're one that goes to cropping events, it'd be great to take with you for cropping events. So easy, it just kind of folds up like that. Just a really cool machine. So a great size. Okay. So we're going to save our little pieces that we cut off. I'm just going to put those to the side. So we're done with our die cuts. Now we just have some stamping to do. Okay, we're going to start with this first stamp. These stems and leaves, and we're doing this out of the Parakeet Party. And we want to keep this away from the side, but up towards the top, because we want to have room for our teacup. So I'm just going to come in and stamp that down. Okay. And our teacup is just going to set just like this. So then the next thing I want to do is I want to come in with the sweet sorbet, and I want to stamp our greeting, and this is going to say thank you. So I just want to ink this up. I'm just going to stamp this over in here. Just like that. Now, if you like all that white space, you can just leave it like that, but I kind of wanted to fill that in. But I didn't want the darkness of the Tahitian Tide at full strength. Let me show you on this scrap paper. See how dark it is? I didn't want it that dark, so I'm going to stamp off and then stamp on. I just wanted it to be a light, faint flower. Just kind of a background flower. And I'm just stamping it all around in the white spaces. I think that's good. Okay, now we're ready to start building our card. So I'm going to move this stuff out of the way and bring in our card pieces. And the first thing we're going to do is attach our wax paper resist piece that we used. I love this technique. And I have to admit, even though it's been around a long time, this was my first experience with it, so I was really excited to do that, to try a new to me technique. Is that a good way to say it? New to me technique. And I'm just going to line this up. That looks good. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and put this towards the middle. So you can see where I practiced on the back. Good thing there's always two sides. And I thought about editing this out, but I think it's good to see that you don't have to be perfect the first time. You can always redo it. Okay, and I'm just going to center this on this piece. That looks good. Now I'm putting my teacup down flat on the paper. You could definitely use dimensionals and raise this up if you wanted. I'm just going to glue it down. Look at the back side of that. Isn't that so pretty? I definitely want to do another card using some more of the paper. I just love all this paper that comes in this set. Okay. And I just want to make sure that my teacup is in the right spot to have all these beautiful leaves coming out. Now I have my flower pieces that I'm going to put on. So two of them are like a full flower and the others are more like a little bud. So I'm going to use my take your pick tool. The one end has the gummy stuff on it, and I like to use that to pick it up. And I'm just going to put just a few dots of glue on that. Maybe I need to put it down while I'm putting the glue on it. And I'm just going to, figure out where I want this. I think that looks good. You know, I'm changing my mind. I'm gonna pull this up while I still can. The two full flowers, the two big flowers, I wanna put down with dimensionals because I want them to pop up. So I'm gonna use the mini Stampin' Dimensionals. And I'm just gonna put one of these on the back of this flower. Pull that paper off. And I just want to put this coming off of this stem. Just like that. And I'm going to do the same thing with the other full flower. And then the little bud type pieces we're going to go ahead and glue down. So I'm just going to put this in the middle. And I'm just going to see where I want this. How about right there? Okay, we're done with the dimensionals. So now I'm just going to put these little buds on. So I'm just going to put a little dot of glue. Probably easier to put it down and do it than to try to lift it in the air. And I think I want to put this one right here. And how about right over here? Maybe No, maybe right here. Okay, and I've got one more to put in. I'm trying to look at it and see where I want this one to go. I think this one is going to go right here. Okay. And that's got our flowers on there. Now there's one more thing that I'm going to do. These gems come, if you buy the collection that's the Happiness Abounds, or Hues of Happiness it's called, Hues of Happiness. If you get that collection, it comes with these gems, and these are Tahitian tied, and I wanted to use that for this. Or they're close to, they go with the Tahitian tied real well, let me say that. And so I'm just going to use these for the centers of my big flowers. Just putting that in the middle. And you could just do two, just like that. Or you could put a third one somewhere around. If you wanted to do that. I just left mine with the two, just for the flowers. And just like that, you have a really cool card using a new technique, or new to you technique, or a technique you've forgotten all about. Now, before I mail this, I will add a piece of basic white on the inside so that I can do my greeting, and I'll probably stamp some little flowers on it just to tie it to the front. I haven't done that yet, but I would definitely finish it off like that. So here's the card that we just did. Here's the card that I had before. Every background that you do with that wax paper resist is going to look different, because you're never going to crumple one the same way twice. I hope you enjoy this technique. I hope you'll give it a try. If you're new to my channel, please hit subscribe. Give me a thumbs up. That helps. Any kind of comment or thumbs up helps with YouTube recommending my videos to others. Be sure to check out my blog, check out my Facebook group, my Facebook page. And I am so thrilled to be able to share this with you. And I will be back to craft with you again soon.